Hi everyone, my name is Holly Syret and I'm the Senior Sustainability Manager at Global Fashion Agenda and absolutely delighted to be the moderator of the panel Ratings versus Rhetoric. I invite the online audience to join me in welcoming our three expert speakers today. We have Arietta Mujai, Marketing Creative Consultant and African Fashion Expert. Welcome, Arietta. Sandra Caponi, co-founder of Good On You, the leading sustainability ratings platform, and Julienne Slijan, the Director of Sustainability Digital Experience at Zalando, which is Europe's largest online fashion retailer. We find ourselves in a state of climate emergency today and know that the fashion industry is currently missing its greenhouse gas reduction targets by a shocking 50%. Action is urgent and we need all actors to support in making a change to a more sustainable industry, including the citizens buying our clothes. So today we want to explore how we can harness fashion's communicative power to drive towards meaningful change, and if communicating ratings and unified sustainability metrics will be key to actually achieving behavioral change, or if we need to look at brand narrative and rhetoric. So I want to start with a lightning round, ratings versus rhetoric. Arietta, what do you choose?
Hi, I choose both. And not in a nutshell, the reason why I choose both is because I feel we need a little bit of both. If you look at the message of sustainability, it means different things to different people everywhere across the world. So in my view, we need a bit of both, ratings and rhetoric.
Brilliant. Julienne?
I agree with Arietta. So the reason for it is that we need the rational part and we need the emotional part of sustainability. And we're going to talk more about this later.
Okay, Sandra, last but not least.
I think there's definitely a role for both, but I'm here to advocate for ratings because shoppers need information that they can trust and make informed choices about.
Brilliant. Okay, so we have a bit of both, but also Sandra on the rating side. Let's start with what's the purpose for communicating in the first place? What are we trying to achieve? Sandra, do you want to start us?
Yeah, I think the first goal for any type of sustainability communications should be transparency, because that's what's going to make brands and the industry accountable. But mostly because it's what helps shoppers make informed choices. I'm pretty sure we all agree that consumers have a really big role to play in driving the change that we want to see in the industry. But they can't shop more sustainably if brands and other players in fashion aren't being transparent about their impacts. And unfortunately, we still have a long way to go. Many brands aren't communicating enough about sustainability. And others are seeing that there's this growing demand for sustainable fashion, are starting to make claims that aren't substantiated, basically greenwashing. Many of us have heard things in the media of more brands pledging to go green, use eco materials, become carbon neutral. And we see this all the time in the scope of our ratings at Good On You, that the majority of brands are now disclosing more information about their climate impacts and they're starting to set carbon emissions. But around 70% of brands don't disclose if they're on track to meet their goals. And there's only a small number of them that have set science-based targets. And there's no way for consumers to make sense of all of this. They're becoming more distrusting of brands. That's why we think there's a real role for rigorous independent ratings. But that's not to say that there isn't a role for storytelling, because consumers are actually individual people and we're all from different geographies and cultures and perspectives. And of course, we need stories and language to engage and inspire and move us all towards the right direction, a more sustainable future in fashion.
Yeah. So the objective is really creating more transparency to empower people to choose, would you say, better brands or better products, or is it both?
I think it's both. I think if we just, we all shop for products, but it can be problematic just to hone in on, product claims. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not enough for a brand just to focus on sustainable collections or items. They should be taking accountability for their impacts across the entire supply chain, and the product's entire life cycle. So yeah, I mean, again, it's like most things, it's both, it's products and it's brands, but consumers need the whole picture when they're making choices.
Yeah. How do you see this, Julien? You, I believe Zalando has 5,000 brands you retail. Are you looking at communicating brand level, product level, and what do you think the main objective is?
Mm-hmm. So I would say the main objective of sustainability communication is really to drive behavior change of the customers, the brands, and ultimately the industry. And we should do that, with transparency and without breaking the trust of anyone. And I agree with Sandra with that. So on the customer side, I want to bring another perspective. So I think we should realize as an industry that actually 50% of people in Europe, so Zalando is Europe-based, so that's the customers I understand the most, do not understand what sustainability even means in fashion. So proposing them a rating, I'm not sure if that's going to be efficient. So we should look at solutions such as educational content to help them understand what that really means. And then for customers that do understand, I'm with Sandra, we need ways for them to assess the impact of the decision they are making. On the industry side, so we really want to incentivize the brands to do more, so you have customers that want to shop more sustainably, you have the brands, so you have an opportunity to link the conversation between the two. So for example, at Zalando, we highlight the more sustainable products and incentivize the brands to do more, to challenge themselves. So about brand sustainability, product level sustainability, I want to share with you my favorite quote from a customer. It's a little bit old now, but still, I love it. It's, I wouldn't buy a good product from a bad brand. We heard that from the customer. So we do need both. So what we see is that customers increasingly want to engage with brands that share the same value system as them. So as a customer, when I go and engage with fashion, I ask myself, am I engaging with a brand that's responsible in its business practice? And I think there are communication associated to that. And as a customer, I ask myself, is that product like a better product? And it's really hard to make sense of this. So that would be, my answer to your question.
Brilliant, thank you. Arietta, you're an expert on Africa, and I know when we're having our prep call, you said, hey, I can't represent 55 different countries, which I think is a brilliant point. What's your perspective on this, and what do we need to take into consideration from more different global perspectives on communicating sustainability?
I think I agree a lot with Julian's side of the conversation, because I think we need a little bit of both. But I'll start with the whole idea of, say, ratings on sustainability. It will be a question of who and where does the ratings come from, or who sets the ratings, or what standards or what parameters were the ratings pulled together by. I think that people kind of do not, when most of these regulations are put into place, there is not a lot of information on Africa, so they're not taken into consideration when they are pulled together. So it wouldn't be necessarily fair for that incentive to be rolled out to that side of the world. However, in terms of the rhetoric and the narrative part, I think never before has there been a better time now in which the world is beginning to see Africa by Africans and see the narrative told by Africans themselves when it comes to fashion, because of social media. I mean, billions of Africans own a mobile phone and they're putting their stories out there. So it's not a question of what you heard about Africa anymore. You're seeing it for yourself. And in terms of the fashion industry, it's the same as well. But when it comes to the issue of sustainability, I think it is pretty difficult for any fashion like consumer, regardless of where they are in the world, to for any brands to get them really interested in sustainability, simply because consumers shop with their eyes. First and foremost, you see a product, a fashion product especially, is it fashionable? If you're into fashion, and especially in the day and age of social media, you want it because it looks good. So from there, it's a decision that the customer made right from side. That means that the focus on sustainability really, as we see more now, and even though there are a lot of consumers who want an emotional attachment to the brand, the focus on sustainability plays little part in the consumer's buying decision. So having said this, in a continent like Africa now, for example, where sustainability is a way of life, or is how it's been. Now that there's emergence of social media, on the flip side as well, people are changing their business models to accommodate a more fast fashion model, which is kind of like ironic. So sustainability was what the model was before, whereby people made clothes for occasions. They had their local tailors and they made clothes for occasions and stuff. But now we have loads of shopping malls. And what happens when you've got loads of shopping malls coming in? You need to fill them in, especially with stuff, with fashion stuff. And there are brands that were just literally made to measure brands on the continent that now produce a bit more ready to market, kind of like one-off pieces in small and manageable volumes. And that has started to be a level of fast fashion. And of course, you've got the international retailers coming to those markets. So I think the communication around sustainability will have to do a lot more with the rhetoric in Africa rather than anything else, because those ratings I don't necessarily think will apply there.
Yeah. And what I think
sorry, Holly, I was just going to say, yeah, there has to be different solutions for different audiences. You know, even as Julian was pointing out, there are 50% of their customers that still need support understanding what sustainability actually means in the context of fashion. And it, you know, will have a different meaning in different cultures again, different environments again. But there also are the other 50% of people that are really engaged on sustainability issues. They understand about fashion's impact and they want to do something about it. But when they go out to find the information to try and understand how their favourite brands are performing on things they care about, impacts on people and planet, the information is either missing altogether or it's not presented in a consistent way, and it becomes really confusing and overwhelming for people that want to do good, that want to support brands that look good, of course, but do good as well. They're struggling to sift through all the mixed messages, to understand what all the different standards and certifications mean, to compare how brands are talking about themselves, to shift through the greenwashing. And I guess it's for these reasons that, you know, consistent ways of talking about things like ratings can help those consumers that are trying to compare all of this really confusing information.
Yeah, that actually brings me to my next question as well, and that's, what are the criteria for successful communications? I hear, Sandra, you said consistency, comparability. Do any, Julienne or Arietta, do you have any other criteria that you'd like to add to that, what we're looking for? Because I guess we don't need more information, is my perspective, but we need to receive it in a way that we can understand.
Yeah. So sustainability communication can take many different forms, right? It can be, as a customer, I want to understand how to extend the life of my denim by knowing how to care about it, right? So as a customer, I want to understand, is this a brand with responsible kind of practices, or is this like a product that is better than this other product from a sustainability perspective? And I think for each of these different type of communication, we need the right we need the right solutions. But I think some things are common across all of them. So the first one would be, it's a realization from last year, working very closely with customers, but we need to speak a sustainability language that they can understand. So as an industry, we have been really technical about it, talking about certifications, and those customers are really lost about that, you know? So what is GOTS, you know, certificate? Like, how as a customer can I know that? You know, I need to upskill myself to understand these things. So I think that's one principle that we can apply to this different form of communication. I think we talk a little bit about it with Sandra. It's about substantiating the claim you are making, making sure that you can substantiate those, and going towards this standardization, so that no matter the point of sales I'm choosing, you know, I can make sense of what I'm seeing. And then it's also about the regional differences. So we talked about Africa, and I'm learning a lot from Arietta about this. So I think, but Zalando, only in Europe, we already see so many differences in the way people perceive sustainability and understand it. And this is something that we need to consider as well when we work on this different type of communications for the customers, and ultimately, you know, drive this behavior change that we are looking for in our industry.
Yeah, I find it is a bit confusing. So are we looking for a good, bad, better type of rating? And if we have that, will we then know, like, how will that be credible to us? I understand like something like GOTS can be confusing. Are we then looking to express carbon emissions? And what about social? What do you think? What is the type of information
I think
that
we'll
we're
have to
looking
cover
to
all
communicate?
sorts of factors, not just climate, economic impact, and whatever the brands are doing on society in general. I think that will qualify. I think when we start to nitpick what areas we qualify under as good, bad, or not so good, bad, or not so good, or good, average, or bad, it kind of lets almost brings in the element of shaming into it. And again, shaming becomes, it's almost like the opposite of using these ratings as and as a checkbox, and that allows for greenwashing because their brands are literally just tick off boxes. So I think we have to be careful in terms of when we're putting in those categories. I think it's not as simple as to place them into a box of 3. I think there will need to be further like breakdowns as to what to the criteria in which you qualify. And I think that we need to look at a wider look into society, not just the climate change, but what other areas, what the brand's impact has on other areas in life, really.
And the social component would definitely be part of that.
It's all linked.
Can you elaborate?
Well, I mean, a brand or a label making clothes touches so many things and so many people in the supply chain. And having an impact on a local environment affects that local community, and the people impacts of fashion are so closely tied to the environmental impacts. So I think when we're talking about sustainability, it is really this broad topic of social and environmental impacts that really are closely linked. And I know I've spoken a lot about transparency and the importance of that, but I think comprehensive is also a really important word. We need to think about impacts that address all of these. All the issues are really complex and interrelated, and any good rating system or any good sustainability communication needs to address that complexity and be really comprehensive in its understanding of the issues, and not just focus in on carbon emissions, because yes, that's important and climate change is important, but so are the local communities and the livelihoods that are being directly impacted by fashion manufacturing every day.
100%. Case in point, look what's just happened over the pandemic. And the sustainable businesses, fashion businesses, are the ones that have had to close down or have struggled. So that's case in point. We have to look at it from a wide, these ratings have to be looked at from a wider societal level rather than just carbon emissions.
And that will I guess that will help mitigate the greenwashing that you're saying. It's not just a statement on one specific element of sustainability, but more holistic. Julienne, do you have examples of solutions that are out there, or the solutions that we should be working towards? Because if I'm hearing comparability, comprehensive, this sounds like a big task if we're looking to achieve that across brands and across products.
Yeah, sure. So I would say that I can talk about Zalando because this is where I have the most experience, and I will share some of the experience there. So we have set ourselves like a really, really ambitious goal. We have 25% of our sales coming from more sustainable product by 2023, and we are working really hard to achieve this. And in our context, it's quite challenging. So we have 4,000 brands with whom we need to engage to get accurate data about what we are doing, about their product. We need to verify that information, make it as trustworthy as possible for our customers, and then communicate that to the customers in a way, that is understandable by the customers, doesn't break the trust with the customers, but also in the context of not having standards in the industry. And in order to get this right, you talked about the aspects that should be considered into the ratings. We have also really good learnings about that, and how much people that do understand sustainability want us to talk about worker well-being, for example. So, and we are going to have to iterate on these solutions. We're already taking actions, but we need to iterate on these solutions, because it's going to be hard work, to get to an ultimate solution that we can use as an industry in general. And a proof of that is like the team we have built in our digital experience. This is a proof of our commitment. We have a dedicated team working on that. And today as a customer, so you can go to Zalando, you can discover a wide range of products, about 100,000 of them, but have a sustainability benefit. And as a customer, I can learn about what makes this product a more sustainable product. So we would tell you this is a God certified product, it's made of organic material. And then we have also pivoted the communication this year earlier on to not only talk about the certification, but also talk about impact so that it's more relatable for customers. So for instance, we would not only say, hey, this is a God certified product, but it's also a product that helps water conservation, for instance. And we know that we need to make a lot of progress to improve that experience, but that's one of the directions that we are taking.
Brilliant. And do you use specific tools to do like the brand or the product rating, or do you have proprietary methods for that?
So for example, for the brand assessment, we have been working with HIG BRM since 2019, and we have already collected social and environmental data from hundreds of brands or partners. But again, like I said, like we're already taking this action. We're really committed, and we have to do that in a world where there is no standards for all we have to communicate. So this will require us to iterate, learn, and improve what we are offering customers.
Yeah. Do you think what Julien described, Arietta, would that be translatable in Africa?
Yeah, I definitely think that, and with a bit more focus on what the benefits will be to the local economies and to the local, the social environment around them. Again, like I said, Africa is 55 continents. We all speak different languages, have different cultures. And I think most of my work, like I said, I was trying to put a forerunner earlier, has been done in West Africa. But from what I see, it's a bit more of the narrative side on what can be done for them. So I think that the information will be interesting and very helpful, but it will need to be translated with a lot of local nuances. I think like a brand like Zalando currently doesn't ship to, I don't think should any West African, I could be wrong, Julien, but I'm not sure if you shipped any West African country. So it'll be hard to see if that would actually work. But I do think that the core of the message behind what they're trying to do will definitely work, but translated with local nuances for the different countries and regions.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that will be the same as well in many other continents. That what works in China. I remember we once did a test and we were talking about people and planet, and we failed with the translation, and we were talking about outer space. So I think we really need to be aware that we can sometimes be in a bit of a European bubble with our approaches on sustainability as well. I know, Sandra, talking about educating consumers can be one of your pet peeves. Can you share more about what do you think we should be doing to educate consumers, and what do you think the industry should be doing to take its own responsibility?
I think for a long time that the industry has deferred to educating consumers as being the solution for addressing the sustainability issues in fashion. And I think, of course, that's part of the solution. But like I mentioned before, a lot of consumers are already aware and wanting to do something about it. And actually, there's a real need for brands to step up, to take accountability, to give consumers the information that they're looking for. And that's definitely happening. And there's also, a lot of other organisations in this space, or all the different standards and certifications in fashion that are emerging are tackling important issues and helping brands to communicate on those. But it does add to the fragmentation and the confusion for shoppers. And that, that goes to the core of why we started good on you. I do also want to mention, Julia mentioned that using HIG data to help with some of the product and brand level assessment and reporting. I'm pretty excited about what is happening at the SAC at the moment, and the transparency program, which is all about leveraging HIG data, making it transparent, ultimately giving more consistent product level information, making that available for consumers. I've actually just joined their board as an advisor on that program, so really excited to see how that's going to evolve. But it's really hard. It is challenging. It will take some time, and in the meantime, there's just a real imperative for brands to not wait until there's a perfect system, but just start having the conversation and start being honest about the challenges that they face in tackling these issues, and building that dialogue and trust with their own customer base, who are looking for answers.
Yeah. So the HIG index, you see that as a potential to deliver on this standardized industry assessment. I hear you mentioning it, Julien mentioning it.
Well, I think the SAC is sitting on a goldmine of information that can help inform consumer choices. Unfortunately, today it's not publicly available, but that process of making it available and presenting it to consumers and industry and other brands in a consistent way, I think will be really valuable. And it can even feed into good on you ratings and how we assess brands. We're definitely not just assessing brands on one issue and giving them, yes, you're sustainable, or no, you're not. Our ratings are looking at hundreds of different sustainability indicators. We're thinking about a brand's impact on people, the planet, and animals, and we try and distill all of that complex information into a simple 5-point score just to help inform the consumer choice, because sustainability is definitely not the only thing they care about when they're shopping. They care about price and how they look and where they are. But more and more, it's becoming an important factor. And in the absence of transparent, consistent information, good on you is trying to make sense of all of that for shoppers and presenting that complex information in a format that they can use quickly and easily to make shopping choices.
And you need the publicly available information from brands, from possibly HIG, to be able to make your ratings as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're standing firmly in the shoes of the consumer, who we believe have the right to know and the right to access the information. So if HIG and other brand information is not available, how can consumers make choices? So we don't take information directly from brands. We're simply collating what they're publicly reporting, what's being said by all of those leading standards and certifications, which there are many, and we're bringing it all together in the one spot for shoppers.
Brilliant. I'm seeing we have a few questions coming in. So as I go into them, I wanted to ask Julien, can you help sketch what we're working towards? Because we see we're on this journey, things are possible now. Thankfully, we have tools like Good On You to help guide us. HIG is on the horizon. What does that look like? What is a transparent or sustainable communicative future?
Yes, so sure. Thank you for your question. So I think what I would like the audience to think about is that today, yes, we did talk about the linear model. We did talk about having ratings and a conversation with customers. But I think as an industry, as we are part of the problem, we also need to be part of the solution. And one of the big challenge that we have is that we need to disconnect the economical growth of our industry with our environmental impact. So it's also about thinking about circularity. So for instance, at Zalando, we launched our new pre-owned offering. We are testing repair services. We have also launched a line of more circular product that make to last longer or that can be repaired. And we have made really big commitment with saying that we will achieve the goal of extending the life of about 50 million products. I think we really need to think carefully about how we are going to make that disconnect between the environmental impact and the growth of our industry. And we need to work really hard on that.
And circularity, you believe, could be a system to achieve that?
Yes.
What do you think, Arietta?
Oh, I 100% agree with Julian, because I think that even in the information that is out there, there's a lot of focus on where the product is being made from, but not much on what to do with it after you've got it. And I think that whole circular model of production and consumption, you know, which involves from production to the end use, it'd be very good if there was some education across each of those different touch points. And I think that the more brands like Zalando are introducing, you know, more circular lines and also working on getting that sort of messaging out there will help, because we need those big brands to educate their consumer, which obviously was probably a lot more mass, to understanding that, you know, there is also what happens to the product at the end of its life is as important as what happens when you first get it, or the way it was made. So I definitely think that a 360 circular economy is the way forward. Just a quick drop. A friend of mine, Roberta Anand, is releasing a book on the 360 African economy. I think it's coming out at the end of this year. It'll be very interesting for you and your viewers to check it out. But it's quite interesting to look at how we are trying to make sure that those touch points, there is transparency across all of those touch points, especially what to do with the product at the end of its life, not just discarded, which is a different problem. Is one of the key focuses. So yes, I'm all with Julian and circular economy.
Yeah, and brilliant plug as well. I think oftentimes at Global Fashion Agenda, we're also looking at how do you approach circularity from different perspectives as well. We can create fantastic recycling hubs in the global north. What happens to the manufacturing countries that are so dependent on the traditional fast fashion model? So I think great plug, and I can't wait to check that book out. So we have a few minutes left. One question for Sandra that came in is, if will Good On You make the ratings available through an API to share with online shops?
We already do that. Yeah, great question. We already work with lots of other retailers and platforms, everyone from Farfetch to Afterpay, and we're actually just about to kick off a pilot with Microsoft, which is all about getting our sustainability ratings and information in the hands of as many consumers as possible. So it's not just about sending people to Good On You, it's about getting these ratings in the hands of people where and when they need it.
Brilliant. And then another question that came in for anyone, I think, is what specific behavior changes are we looking to drive from consumers? So it has to be a short answer. I don't know who wants to take it.
Mass consumption. I mean, it's a big problem. The more we have a drive to consume, there will always be products to fill it.
Okay, great. Then my closing lightning round. What change are you looking to achieve? And you have 5 seconds, Sandra.
More ratings, better consumer choices.
Julien.
Drive behavior change for customers and brands.
Arietta.
Transparency, transparency, transparency.
Brilliant. Thank you all. And looking forward to moving this conversation forward and to following your work.